This week I'm going to be showing you guys how to model a gear in 3D Studio Max using splines. First thing I did is download the image that was provided by the assignment, and what I'm going to do is first create a plane, just a flat plane. What I'm going to do is project that reference image on here so we can use it as a guide. Once I create the plane, what I want to do is center it, so I'm just going to switch to move and zero out the coordinates here, and I want it to be a perfect square, so let's just make it let's go 512 by 512, and what one thing that's worth mentioning is that if you go under customize and unit setup, I'd like to keep it at generic units. That's just so if I need to and I'm referencing a specific image file, I can find out its exact size and just punch it in, and it's going to make it proportional. So let's get rid of some of these grids. You can do that by selecting a viewport and hitting G. I just find them distracting. And once I do that, what I'm going to do is, now that I have that plane selected, I'm going to go up to my material editor, and I'm going to create, just click on a new material, and what I want to do is take that image and project it onto this plane. So what I'm going to do is click this little button here by diffuse, click on bitmap, hit OK, and then I am going to go to my desktop, find that gear image, and click open. What I'm going to do is just click and drag that sphere with the image on it over here, and then I need to click show shaded material in viewport, and from there you're going to see that it's going to project that gear image right onto the square. Now what I want to make it so I can't mess this up since I'm using it as a reference. What I'm going to do is I want to freeze it. Now if you simply just select it, right click and hit freeze, you're going to see that the image disappears. The way you get around that is, let's unfreeze it, click on it, right click and go to object properties. Right here under display properties, you want to uncheck show frozen in gray. When you do that, you can freeze it now, and it's going to maintain its appearance. But now I can't click on it or mess it up or anything like that. So since we're going to be using splines, it's very important that we keep them on the same plane. So for this next part, I'm going to just use the front viewport, and I'm going to go over to create, to shapes, excuse me, and then I'm going to just focus on line. The way line works is very much like the pen tool in Photoshop and Illustrator. You're just going to be basically making points and connecting them. And I'm just going to do this very quickly. Accuracy isn't very important at this point because we can edit this down the road. When you do this, however, I would like that you definitely take your time and make it look as polished and professional as you can. And basically what this first part is going to be is using these spline tools to create all the shapes that you see in this object. And that's not, I'm not just referring to the solid shapes, but all the areas that are cut out as well. So you're basically just tracing everything. I can see that each of these teeth has excuse me, 5 sides, so I want to kind of stay consistent. And since we'd like this to be as accurate as possible, I'm going to show you how to edit this right after I'm done. It's way off. Now when you connect them, you're going to get this dialog box that says close spline. For this technique to work, all your splines need to be closed. If they are not, you're going to run into a lot of issues. Some of the later modifiers that we're going to be using aren't going to work if they're not connected. Next thing I'm going to do is, now that I'm done with that, I want to right click and say convert to editable spline. Once I do that, I can go in and I can select on vertex here in the modifier list, and I can actually zoom in a little bit. I can go in and give me one. Oops, my lock is on. I can go in and move these individual points in place and make it a little bit more clean, which for this assignment is something you're going to want to do. Alright, let's fix that really horrible one up here. Trying to fix some of the more atrocious ones. Okay. So now we have that outside edge kind of refined. Now we're going to start looking at some of these interior shapes. Oops. Let's fix this one right here. Excuse me. All right. So now we'll look at some of these interior shapes. So you see that right here, I mean, that's a perfect circle. So what we can do is go back to Splines and click Circle, and just start from the center, grow it out. I'm going to select it, and I want to make sure it's centered because that'll line it up nicely. All right, so we got that. So now I'm going to look at some of these bigger areas in here. So I'm going to go back to using the line tool. Now, like Photoshop, if you click and drag while you're using this line tool, if you just click point by point, it's just going to create straight lines. But when you get these curves, I can click and drag, and you can see that it curves the line. Now again, this is something we can go back and edit, so I will do that. So again, here's a nice curve, so I need to click and drag. Close spline, yes. So now, if I click on this spline, I can edit it if I would like to make sure it's nice and neat. And now this is where you kind of have to start being creative. If you're looking at this spline right here, you can see that there are 4 areas that are identical, right? So what I can do is if I hold down Shift and then I move this object, oops, it's going to create a copy of it. And I have several options here, and for this I just want to copy it, so I'm going to hit OK. And then I want to rotate it 90 degrees. To make sure I do that accurately, what I can do is turn on the angle snap toggle. I'm going to click on that and go over to rotate. And now when I rotate, it snaps bit by bit. And you can see in the lower bar below the timeline, I can just make sure it's right at 90 degrees. And now I can move this into place. again. Create a copy. Rotate. Make sure it goes right to 90 degrees. One more time. Okay. Now the last thing we have to do is these small little interior pieces. So again, those are there's 4 different instances of those. So what I'm going to do is go back to line. I'm just going to draw these out. Now, I want to copy these both at the same time. Now to do that, I'm going to go to Modify, and with one selected, I'm going to say Attach, and then I'm going to, you see the icon's going to change, and when I roll over it, I get this little symbol right there, and I click on that, and now what that did is it connected those 2 splines together, so now they're one object. So now, I can well, you can use the move tool or the rotation tool. If I have the rotation tool and I hit shift, it's going to do the same thing. So it's probably even easier, because now I can just move that into place. Do it again. And one last time. And for some reason that didn't connect, so let's grab this one. And move it over. Okay, so now if I let's unfreeze it for a second here. I'm going to hide that. Now you can see that I have everything roughly laid out, right? Now the next thing I want to do is I guess I should have clarified. Let's get back to where. So since that was the background is frozen and I just wanted to hide it, I just clicked and selected unfreeze all, and I clicked on that background reference image since I really don't need it anymore, and I just said hide selection. So then I see this. So now I just want to grab one of these splines. It doesn't really matter which one. Go to Convert to Editable Spline, and then I want to scroll down on the list and go to Attach. Now it's very important that you need to first convert it to an editable spline before you do this. Click Attach. So now it's got that first spline that I had selected, and now I can just go through and start clicking on everything to make sure it all becomes part of the same image. And you can see it worked because everything is now in red. And if it's not appearing like this, you can change just how you're looking at it. I always like to keep edge faces on because that helps me see what I'm doing. So now I'm going to hit Alt-W to go back into the 4 viewport mode. So now we want to turn this into a 3D object now that everything's connected. So how I do that is I go to the modifier list and I'm going to go to Extrude, and now I can sit here and change how deep I want the extrude to be. That looks good to me. And now if I rotate here in the perspective view, you can see, since I was very careful and made sure that all my splines were on the same plane, I have a very handsome looking three-dimensional gear. If you want to go a step farther and kind of play around with it, let's turn on. One thing you can do if you want some more room to play is create a few more segments in there. What that allow you to do is, let's first, we're okay with that. Let's convert it to an, for the purposes of the assignment, this is what you were asked to do right here. You created a 3D version of the gear using splines. But if you want to take an extra step and kind of have some fun with it, you're going to first want to convert it to an editable polygon. And use some of the selection tools. For this, I want edge, and I just clicked one, and then if I hit ring, it's going to select, oops, that's not what I wanted. Click loop, it's going to select everything that's connected to it, and I can use the scale tool to kind of give it some teeth, right? Show you from this angle. You can also, let's see, I'm going to use a border so I can grab this. Oh, where did you let me grab it? I'll just use loop again. And depending, yeah, it's not liking that. Because we use the splines, some of these selection tools aren't going to work the way we like them to. Yeah, it's not liking that. So let's do this. Let's grab use freeform selection, and I'm going to grab these edges in the middle. Oh, my mistake, that's not what I wanted. There we go. So now what we can do is use some of the other fun tools down here, like chamfer, and what you can by making some basic adjustments here. Let's do this first. It's going to make me do this the hard way. So I'm just going to hold down the control key. Use one by one. Just to show you some of the, because realistically with a machine part, they're not going to have these perfect crisp edges. Alright. So now you can see that I have it nice and selected there. The chamfer tool is going to allow me to kind of create a nice little bevel, as you can see. The second field is going to control how many segments. The first is just how that is deep the chamfer is going to be. So you can hit OK. Oh, and I lost it. Okay, so you can go around and pick and choose parts to kind of mess with. But yeah, that's pretty much all you need to know for this assignment. Let me know if you have any questions. And yeah, have fun with it. If you're finding that first part, just creating the actual gear, is too simple, have fun. Add some texture, add some finer detail. You want a good challenge. Try and make it look a bit more worn. Add some dings and some chips here and there. But yeah, have fun with it.